Hey artists, we're gonna make these amazing succulent pots. We already did the clay part, so this is all about how to color them and paint them and add that shiny finish. All right, we are going to first use oil pastels on our cactus pot. So we made this with clay and we put it through the kiln, and now we have this awesome little pot of succulents and cacti, and we're gonna add some color. Now, I think some of my friends have gotten confused and they'll put like green and then put green paint on top, or put blue and then blue paint on top. We want to actually do different colors, and this is why. When we use the oil pastel, like let's say I go through and I add some little purple circles here. What's going to happen is then after I color this part with the purple, let's say I use a different color, maybe blue, the blue paint will go over and that purple will really stand out. So I want to put some color on here and then use a different color of paint over the top, and then this oil pastel will leave a really cool texture and a little bit of contrast. So I'm just kind of going through and adding some color to my little pot here. I had drawn some line designs on here, so I'm just adding a little bit of color to that. I grab some yellow, just kind of go along that line. So we just kind of decorate using the oil pastels, but leaving space for when we add the paint on top of this. And we are not going to paint the very bottom because that's the part that touches the table. And if we're gonna put a coat of some shininess on top of this, we will not be putting that on the bottom. So now, maybe I'll add some of this onto this one. I'll add a little texture. But then when I add the paint, I might use a slightly different shade so this shows through and looks really neat. All right, I'm gonna look through and see if I can find a different color. Just adding a little bit of color on here. And this feels weird. It's very rough feeling when we use the oil pastel on here, so it won't feel like a smooth drawing at all. I'm just adding a little color that I think will look cool when I put the paint over it to leave a little texture. Okay. And I might add a little bit more to my pot here. Okay, I've added a little bit of color on here. And now I'm gonna get ready to add some paint. And that's gonna really give this a nice finished look. So get that oil pastel where you would like it. All right, now I'm ready to use the paint. The paint we're gonna use is a liquid watercolor. And I'm gonna use a smaller brush so I can get into all of these little crevices here. So I'm gonna take this green and I'm gonna paint this cactus on down. You can see it just kind of soaks right into the paint, or into the clay, and leaves a really neat color. And you can see some of that blue-green showing through that I put on there. So I'm gonna go through and add some color on here. And this is gonna take some time because we're having to get into all these little cracks. And I'm really glad I have this longer skinny brush because I can really get my brush down into all of that cactus. Oh, and it's starting to look so cool. Okay. Now once I have that on, I might grab this color and add this color to this cactus. Ooh, that's looking cool. And you can see the oil pastel kind of shining through when I put that color on. Very neat. All right. And then we're just going to go through and continue adding color. I might use this kind of blue-green turquoise color on this one. Very nice. All right, washing my brush, I'm going to get a little bit of orange to go on top of where I put that pink. Oh, that looks really cool. I might put some orange up here too. So now it's got like an orangey pink flower at the top. All right. I might use two colors on this one. I might put this lighter yellowish green and then add some green on top. Okay, washing the brush clean before I touch a new color. I'll dip in the green and then I can add those little green areas. And this is really starting to come to life. Okay. Okay, if I want this color to look a little different, I can wash my brush clean, add some of the yellow color on top, and it'll change the look of the color, maybe to a different shade of green or a different tone. All right, look at all those cactuses starting to get that color and come to life. You're gonna do the same thing with your pot. You could also choose like a little bit of a brown color to put down in your pot if you like. But you got to be careful not to touch your cacti. But you could add a little bit of that dirt color inside of your pot if you would like. And then you can start painting your pot. So we're just very carefully adding the liquid watercolor paint to our pot to make it really come to life. All right, I added some beautiful color to the pot. A little bit of orange and kind of a reddish. And I added some design. Some of this hasn't quite soaked in yet. And then my next step is going to be to add some Mod Podge, which is going to give it a shininess. So I want to make sure I don't have any big chunks of wet paint because I don't want those to move around. Mod Podge is like, it looks kind of like glue, and it's going to add a real shininess to your piece. So we're just gonna take this. I like to kind of start at the bottom and go around the edge. It'll look a little bit white now, but it's going to dry clear and shiny. It's gonna give it a real shiny look and make it look finished. You don't want to rub it back and forth too much because it can start to move the color around. So we just kind of gently put it on and then we leave it. So first I'm going around in a circle to make sure I get the shininess around the edge. I am not putting it on the bottom because you do not want this to stick to your table. All right, I got the edges. Now I can do the top edge carefully. And then I'm gonna go over the top of my cactus, each one. And so this stuff is gonna make it really shiny. And then once you have this all coated carefully with that shiny Mod Podge, we're gonna let these dry. And then you'll see that beautiful shine and your finished succulent pot. And once it's all dry, you can see it has a shininess to it. And all the colors kind of sealed in there. And I cannot wait to see your amazing succulent pots when they're all colored and shined up and completed.